Welcome. Today, we're really cutting right to the core of a question that, well, it drives so much of modern life. Why does financial success seem almost effortless for some people, yet it remains this constant struggle for others? We're talking about the deep roots of scarcity.
Yeah, it's tempting, isn't it, to just say, oh, it's bad luck or maybe lack of opportunity. But the sources we've looked at, they show a much more complex picture and honestly a more actionable one too. We've pulled together insights from some really powerful thinkers, Robert Kiyosaki, Stephen Covey, James Clear, to identify 10 critical, often overlooked reasons people get stuck in that cycle of financial constraint.
And just to be clear, our goal here isn't about assigning blame at all, not in the slightest. Instead, we want to give you, the listener, some precise diagnostic tools. Because if you can identify these behaviors, these gaps, then you can start applying targeted solutions. Think
Mhm.
of it as maybe an essential guide to getting financially well informed.
Exactly. And the common thread, the wisdom from all these heavy hitters, it's pretty uniform. The journey towards abundance, it really starts with self-awareness. So let's just jump right in, maybe starting with something that, frankly, should have been taught back in high school.
Okay, let's unpack that. The first critical failure, maybe the foundational misunderstanding for so many, is simply a lack of financial education. It's not about a lack of intelligence at all. We get really good at being employees, but we're often woefully unprepared, for actually managing wealth.
And this is the huge distinction Robert Kiyosaki hammers home in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's the difference between working for money and having money work for you.
Hmm.
The vast majority of people are kind of trapped in the first one, what he calls the rat race, simply because they don't grasp the mechanics of assets versus liabilities. They might earn a decent salary, sure, but they never quite understand how, say, inflation is silently eating away at their savings, or how compound interest works against them when they're carrying high-interest debt.
Right, like if you're earning 4% on your savings, but inflation's running at 5%, well, you're actually losing ground every single day without even realizing it. So practically speaking, how does someone listening start to make that shift from just being an employee to maybe being an owner or an investor, even if it's on a small scale?
Well, it really starts with defining assets correctly. An asset, simply put, puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out. Without that basic financial education, people often buy liabilities, think expensive cars, the latest gadgets, believing they're rewards, when actually they're eroding their potential wealth. So the actionable takeaway here is pretty clear. You've got to actively seek out financial literacy. Learn basic budgeting, understand how taxes work, know the difference between, say, a stock and a bond. It's really lifelong learning, not just a one-off class.
And that lack of knowledge, it often pushes people directly into the second major trap we identified, the debt trap. High-interest consumer debt is, well, it's an absolute killer of financial freedom.
Insidious is the perfect word for it, especially when you're using credit for depreciating assets, things that lose value the second you buy them. Dave Ramsey has that famous, very stark phrase that the borrower is slave to the lender. It sounds harsh, maybe, but it's financially spot on when you realize you might be paying 18%, even 25% interest on something you consumed months ago.
But hang on, the word debt itself, it isn't inherently evil, is it? Isn't there an important distinction we need to make between, say, strategic debt and destructive debt? Oh, absolutely. That's a crucial distinction. Differentiating between good debt and bad debt is fascinating. Good debt is generally used for things that generate income or appreciate in value. Think about a mortgage on a rental property that brings in cash flow, or maybe a small business loan that helps you expand and earn more. That can be smart. Bad debt, on the other hand, is usually tied to consumption things that lose value immediately. This forces you into this perpetual payment cycle that just sucks up your future earnings. To escape that, you really have to prioritize aggressively paying off that high-interest bad debt, maybe using a strategy like the debt snowball or the debt avalanche. That flows perfectly into the third foundational reason, which feels more behavioral, living beyond your means and prioritizing instant gratification. We live in a society that really pushes that keeping up with the Joneses idea.
That's social pressure. It's incredibly potent. We feel this need to signal status, sometimes even if we can't truly afford it. Thomas Stanley and William Danko, they really reveal the truth in The Millionaire Next Door. Those outward displays of wealth. They often mask pretty profound financial instability. The average millionaire, believe it or not, is typically quite frugal, often driving reliable older cars, living in modest homes, precisely because they prioritize accumulating capital over that immediate pleasure hit.
So if you're constantly choosing the immediate comfort The frequent meals out, the subscription you barely use, the newest gadget you never actually allow that capital to build up and start working for you. You never reach that critical mass.
Exactly. Instant gratification is basically the enemy of compounding.
Hmm.
If you consistently spend, say, $500 a month on stuff you don't strictly need, that money isn't available to be invested. And invested, it could potentially turn into hundreds of thousands over decades. The solution often involves, well, tracking every penny and really practicing delayed gratification until you hit some level of financial independence.
Okay, let's shift focus a bit now more towards the internal stuff, the mental blueprints, if you will, that kind of dictate your financial trajectory. Reason number 4 is a clear lack of defined financial goals and planning.
Yeah, if you're just sort of drifting without a defined roadmap, you're incredibly susceptible to impulsive decisions. Why? Because there's no larger framework to judge those decisions against. You might be working incredibly hard, being highly efficient, but effectiveness really requires knowing your destination.
And this is where we can bring in Stephen Covey's timeless habit, right? Begin with the end in mind.
Precisely. Covey insisted that all things are created twice, first in the mind, then physically. So if your end goal is financial independence, you absolutely need that mental blueprint first. We hear the term SMART goals thrown around a lot: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. But why do vague goals like "I want to be rich someday" fail? Well, because they provide no metrics, no deadline, no specific action you need to take today. It means every shiny object that drifts by can distract you. A real goal needs a deadline and a number. Otherwise, it's just a wish.
That mental planning then leads directly into reason number 5, which is arguably one of the most powerful constraints. Operating with a scarcity mindset versus an abundance mindset. That mindset born from fear. It leads to self-sabotaging behaviors.
This is really the core of Pienshar Eker's work in Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, identifying your internal money blueprint. If you fundamentally operate from a belief that, say, money is hard to get or opportunities are scarce or that taking any kind of risk is inherently dangerous, then your actions will naturally align with that belief. This often shows up as financial paralysis. You might avoid investing altogether, or maybe hoard cash out of fear. Or, conversely, spend money quickly because you subconsciously fear you'll lose it anyway.
Can you give us a practical example? How does that scarcity mindset actually push opportunities away?
Sure, think about something like salary negotiation. Someone with a scarcity mindset might accept the very first offer they get, terrified of losing the job opportunity. That severely limits their income potential right from day one. But someone with more of an abundance mindset believes their value is high and negotiates confidently for what they're worth. Aker sums it up beautifully. Your income can grow only to the extent that you do. If your inner blueprint sets your income ceiling low, you'll subconsciously find ways to cap your own earnings. Challenging those limiting beliefs is absolutely essential for growth.
Okay, moving into our next section, we're looking at investment, but not just portfolio investment. Reason number 6 is the failure to invest in oneself and acquire valued skills.
Right. In today's economy, which is evolving so rapidly, continuous learning isn't really optional anymore. It's basic survival. If you neglect your professional development, your earning potential stagnates, and frankly, you become more vulnerable to being replaced maybe by automation, maybe by younger talent with more up-to-date skills.
And Thomas C. Corley's research in Rich Habits, it provides such a stark data point here, doesn't it?
It really does. Corley found this massive difference. 88% of the self-made millionaires he studied read for 30 minutes or more every day, specifically for education or career improvement. Compare that to only 2% of individuals struggling financially. And this isn't just reading novels for fun. It's focused skill acquisition, learning through biography, staying ahead of industry trends. Ultimately, the best ROI you can get is on your own knowledge and skills. If you become more valuable, you tend to be compensated more highly.
And that increased compensation, which comes from investing in yourself, is pretty necessary to facilitate reason number 7, inconsistent or even non-existent saving habits.
This is absolutely foundational to building wealth. And honestly, it's one of the simplest concepts, yet often the hardest habit to actually master. George S. Clayton's advice from The Richest Man in Babylon is just timeless. A part of all you earn is yours to keep.
That's the famous pay yourself first principle. But for many people listening, especially those who feel like they're already living paycheck to paycheck, how is it even possible to save anything?
It's often a matter of shifting your priorities, even if the amount feels small initially. Clayton suggested 10%, but even if it's just 5% or even 1%, it needs to be treated as a non-negotiable expense. Think of it like a debt you owe to your future self. The key for many is automation. Set up an automatic transfer to a savings or investment account the moment your paycheck hits. If you never really see that money in your checking account, you reduce the temptation to spend it. Without that disciplined habit, every little expense, every emergency, every impulse purchase just consumes the entire income. It leaves you with no emergency fund, no capital to invest, meaning any small disruption can derail your whole financial plan.
Okay, now let's transition a bit to the external factors, the things around you that influence your success. Reason number 8 is about negative peer influence and your environment.
Yeah, Napoleon Hill, back in Think and Grow Rich, really championed the power of the mastermind principle. Put simply, you tend to become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. That includes financially and aspirationally. So if your inner circle mostly consists of people who complain about money, or encourage expensive spending habits, or constantly pressure you into activities beyond your budget, well, that environment is going to powerfully sabotage even your best intentions.
That implies that growth might require finding a new tribe, or at least adjusting who you spend time with. How do you handle that? Maybe mitigating the influence of friends or family who are, let's say, financially toxic without necessarily cutting them off entirely.
It's largely about setting clear boundaries, and at the same time, actively seeking out communities or groups of growth-oriented individuals. You want to be around people who discuss business ideas, investment opportunities, skill development, not just the latest consumer trends or gossip. Your environment should ideally lift you up and hold you accountable to bigger goals, not drag you back down at the status quo.
That leads nicely into reason number 9, the lack of multiple income streams. Relying solely on a single job income, especially in today's volatile economy, seems like an enormous risk.
It creates extreme financial fragility. Think about it. If you lose that one job, maybe due to a layoff, maybe illness, 100% of your income vanishes overnight. Timothy Ferriss in the 4-Hour Workweek really emphasized the importance of diversifying how you earn, moving beyond simply exchanging your time for money. He promotes building what he calls muses, essentially automated income streams.
Muses, I like that term. How does he define that practically for someone who's just starting out, maybe doesn't have a lot of capital?
A muse, in his context, is basically any system that generates income with minimal ongoing time commitment from you. This could involve creating a digital product once, investing in dividend-paying stocks, maybe starting a small online business that can be largely outsourced or automated. The main goal is to start decoupling your income from your time. Even having 3 or 4 small independent income streams means that if one dries up unexpectedly, you still have others keeping you afloat. It provides financial resilience, which then allows you to take more calculated risks and pursue better opportunities overall.
Right. Resilience is key. And finally, we arrive at reason number 10. This one often seems the most indirect, but it contributes massively to financial hardship, neglecting your health and well-being.
Yeah, this is the ultimate long-term investment that people chronically underfund, so to speak. Think about chronic illness, stress-related burnout, lost workdays due to sickness, and eventually potentially massive medical expenses. These are direct destroyers of accumulated wealth. If you neglect the engine, which is your body and mind, then the productivity you need to earn and the longevity you need to benefit from things like compounding interest are both seriously diminished.
So James Clear's principles from Atomic Habits are really applicable here too, aren't they? Connecting those small, consistent health choices to potentially massive long-term financial outcomes.
Precisely. Small, seemingly insignificant bad habits, like consistently poor sleep, bad nutrition, lack of movement, they compound over time into future high-cost scenarios. Think about the potential cost of managing diabetes long-term, needing expensive medications, or maybe losing 5 years of your peak earning potential because of burnout. Prioritizing consistent habits around good nutrition, regular exercise, and sufficient sleep isn't just about feeling good day to day. It's a necessary strategic investment to ensure you actually have the energy, the focus, and the capacity to pursue all those financial opportunities we've been discussing.
That really brings us full circle through these 10 reasons. When we synthesize all this wisdom from Kiyosaki, Ramsey, Covey, Eker, all these influential figures, what's the single core finding about the nature of financial success that stands out?
I think the core finding is that financial success is very rarely accidental. It almost always requires an intentional combination of, first, self-awareness, really identifying those limiting beliefs we talked about, then education, immense discipline in managing consumption and debt, and finally, strategic long-term planning. The most successful people, financially speaking, tend to treat their finances much like running a business, not like a casual hobby. They understand that consistent, intentional daily actions are what truly determine their long-term trajectory.
And the key message for you, the listener, is that you absolutely possess the power to fundamentally change your financial narrative by tackling these foundational issues head on. It's about shifting from constantly reacting to money problems to proactively building wealth and resilience. And that includes everything from your personal health habits to who you choose to surround yourself with.
Exactly. And maybe here's a final thought for you to carry forward. The inertia of bad habits, it's undeniably powerful. But the compounded effect of starting even a single good habit can be truly transformative over time. Don't wait until you feel you have the perfect plan or the perfect amount of money to start. What is the single conscious choice, maybe regarding debt, or learning something new, or adjusting your peer group that you can commit to starting today that will begin to fundamentally alter your path? Start right there.